Right. As a school psychologist, I know that you have some background knowledge on sports and psychology in general, and I wanted to get your take and opinion on motivation and choking, that term choking, and all that in general. And I have a series of questions I want to ask you, and basically the first one starts with your perception on the terms of choking and succeeding. Like, what do you perceive to be choking and succeeding?
Well, I think by definition, when you say that someone is choking, it's that they have an ability that they are not able to do in a specific situation. So, when it comes to something like school, it would be taking a test and not necessarily being ready for it, or being ready for it and not performing up to the standard that your preparation should have you set up to do. So in the sports world, it's something like if you're a baseball player who is has a really high batting average and you're up in a position to drive home a runner or do something for the team where there is some pressure on you, you're not able to perform at the same ability level that you typically would be able to do if there weren't extra pressures put on you in that moment.
Right. Okay. And to tag along with that answer, I have another question with that.
Sure.
Under what circumstances do these terms apply to people in today's world as well in sports?
Well, like I said, there are times when people are under pressure, throughout their day. So obviously, for a teenager, it might be something like taking a driver's test and having all that pressure put on you, knowing that your actions for a very short period of time could determine the outcome of a major life activity and getting your license. So something like that, if you prepare for it, you read how to do it, you take so many hours of time on the road in classes, and you have all the preparation that you need to be successful, and you've demonstrated it before, and then in the moment you are not able to do it because you're worried about it, or you can't stop thinking about what that failure would be like. So that's an example that I can think of that I think would be relevant for you.
Very cool. Our second question now is, can an athlete naturally have a clutch gene?
Well, this is a really interesting question because, I like baseball a lot, so I follow baseball, and I hear about certain players always being good in the clutch, and other players, being notorious chokers. Now, to use specific examples, you hear that Derek Jeter is really good in the clutch, and Alex Rodriguez has always been a choker. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the perception of the fans, to some degree how much they like the player in the first place. And I can't really tell you anything specific to those performances. I haven't studied the numbers, I haven't looked at anything, but I do think that there is an ability to block out that negative thinking that could lead to failure. I don't know how measurable it is. I'm not sure if it's something that you could necessarily quantify in a way, in like a data point to say, oh yeah, you can tell that someone with this specific mental set would be better than someone else. But I do think that there is some aspect to that it may not be something that's inborn, but it could certainly be something learned, how to block out those negative thoughts and how to be prepared for a specific situation, so that you're more likely to
Succeed.
perform to a higher degree.
Do you think that the mental toughness aspect of a sports athlete's life greatly influence their ability to excel or even fail?
Well, I think it's really dependent on the individual. You do hear about some players who really can't overcome some aspect of their game, and it becomes self-defeating. So you get into this self-fulfilling prophecy where you're afraid you're going to fail, so you believe it. And then eventually you get to the point where you just keep reliving that failure, and you're not able to stop that chain of thinking or the chain of events that lead up to it. So go back to the question again. I lost it in the middle of
it was, do you think that the mental toughness aspect of a sports athlete's life greatly influence their ability to excel or even fail?
Yes. So I do think it has the ability to influence their success. So if you are able to toughen up and get through some things, that you are more likely to be successful at the sport. And if you can't get past that, it may lead to your failure.
Okay. How much do you think motivation has to factor into an athlete's success?
I think that some people are naturally talented to the point where they can perform to a certain level, but without motivation, you can't necessarily reach a higher level. So, you may have some innate skill that comes to you so easily you don't really have to try. But if you're not motivated to get better, and you're not motivated to work harder, in all likelihood, you're not going to be able to reach the same level of success as someone with maybe slightly lesser skills but much more motivation.
Right.
With that hustle, heart, and desire that
Exactly.
Coach K used to talk about. That will take you over the top and lead to more success.
Okay. Do you think that a life-changing event that takes place in an athlete's life either mar their success or ultimately allow them to succeed?
I think, again, it is totally dependent on that individual. If you experience personal tragedy, you could certainly use that as a motivational factor and something to focus on in getting better. It could also be something that causes you to lose focus and lose your drive. And I think that's really true for any aspect of an individual in life. Someone could be really great at whatever job they have and have something happen to distract them and keep them from performing, or something bad could happen and cause them to totally refocus their energy and get much better.
Okay. I have a definition here for you. It's called attentional focus, and it's defined as the ability to tune out distractions such as a crowd of screaming fans and focus attention on the task at hand. And my question to you is, how much do you think this factors into one's success?
I think it factors in to success in certain aspects. If you're playing golf,
Right.
you're not going to have much of a cheering crowd. There may be visual distractions if there are a lot of people crowded, outside of the range of where you're playing. But it's much more likely in like football, where you have a stadium that's so loud that you might not be able to concentrate on what you're doing. Absolutely, yeah, and that's why they have like a radio communication devices so that coaches can talk to the players directly and kind of keep them focused. So I do believe that if you can filter that out, it's one more variable that will potentially lead to your success.
Right. Okay. And last question here. What do you think the biggest reason is for why athletes, quote unquote, choke, and why do you define it the way you do?
I would say that the number one reason why athletes choke is that they have come up with a negative way of thinking about the activity that they're doing. If you think that you're going to fail, you're more likely to fail. Again, it goes back to that idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
If you're going to think that you're going to choke,
You're
more likely to do it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think you may be more hesitant in your approach. You may not go up there and use the same line of thinking that you would in a situation that does not have that same pressure. If you are trying to be a hero and worried that you're going to let people down, you might, if you're swinging a bat, not swing with all the same momentum that you would, because you're worried about it. Or if you're playing basketball, and you go to take a shot, you might overthink, the steps and not just go with the muscle memory. You might try and control things too much, and because of that, you're eliminating some of the athletic ability that that you've learned over the years. You're trying to have too much control, and that could potentially lead to you having some, something that gets in the way of that success.
Sweet. That was it. I can edit it. End it here.
Nice work, Nick.
Thank you.